starting off with a story we actually talked about last week, which was SUSE's Liberty Linux Lite, which offers a lifeline for people who are running CentOS 7. That was something that I talked about. But there's another alternative, and that's Rocky Linux, because this week we talked to CIQ about Rocky Linux Bridge, which does pretty much the same thing, but there is a twist for enterprise users. CIQ offers a site license that will help customers migrate to a future-proof version of enterprise Linux. Stephen, you were the one who really jumped in on this and had a chat with CIQ. Tell us a little bit more about what CIQ Bridge for CentOS does.
Sure. Well, it is similar to what we heard about SUSE's Liberty Linux Lite, in that basically CentOS 7 users can put in a different repository and continue to get patches and updates to software beyond the end of life, which was last Sunday. So it was a real interesting conversation that I had with the Greg Kersler from CIQ, because frankly, this is a problem for the industry. I mean, essentially what we're looking at here is technical debt. As many of us know, we build servers, we build solutions on top of operating systems. It's really hard to migrate those operating systems forward. Now, some people like to say that it's easier if you're using Ubuntu or Debian-based distro, but frankly, it's always a challenge to migrate to a new version, a new major release of any kind of operating system. And that's especially true of CentOS. So there are literally millions of CentOS 7 machines out there that are no longer receiving support updates and absolutely must receive support updates. This includes security updates. It also includes fixes for other problems that can crop up. But of course, the real answer is to migrate to another supported Unix operating system. The problem is it's difficult to make that jump. Now, Red Hat, when they changed their approach, let's say, to CentOS, I think hoped that people would make that jump to Red Hat by now. They didn't seem to do that. So what are we going to do? Well, the news here is that hyperscalers are starting to tell customers, look, if you're running CentOS, you need to migrate to something. Google Cloud is telling customers, if you're using CentOS 7, then you ought to look into CIQ's bridge, the Rocky Linux bridge, as a way to keep getting support updates and security patches and so on, because you need to have that. As we're going to talk about later on the show here, there are security bugs constantly being discovered, and those can affect servers, especially servers running older software, pretty badly. So CIQ has essentially this bridge to the future. They let CentOS 7 continue to operate. In fact, they'll offer extended support for 3 more years to people using CentOS 7. If you jump on this, which you ought to if you're relying on CentOS 7, if you jump on this, please kick off a transition process, a migration process to get onto a supported version of Linux, whether you switch distros or whether you go to one of the enterprise Linux offshoots, whether you could go to Red Hat, absolutely. You could go to Rocky Linux, you can go with Oracle, with SUSE, whoever you want to, but you gotta go somewhere. And as we discussed in this conversation, the other thing that CIQ is doing here is they're helping customers make that transition. So they're basically, once a customer signs up for this Linux bridge, CIQ is there to give them some advice, to give them some help on moving forward. And if they need a lot of help, CIQ is there to help them make that migration. Now, I'm sure that they hope that they'll migrate to Rocky Linux, but they reassured me that that's not what this is all about. They're really trying to help customers to have a supported Linux environment and to migrate basically to anything supported. I applaud them for doing this. And again, I hope that those of you who are still using CentOS out there are going to take their advice and move forward with a bridge to get continuing support, and move forward with a plan to get on a supported version of enterprise Linux.